Howdy do. This is my last day in Australia, and I'm sitting with one of our excellent hosts, Adam Reeks of the Herd Mentality. Here in his backyard, you may recognize the cow. And this has been a really great trip, and I really got to say thank you to you and everybody else who's been taking such really good care of us, both in Australia and New Zealand. Everybody that's been involved with us has been out of their way, exemplary, and this has been a really, really great trip. What you got to say for yourself, man?
It's been so much fun having you, Matt, Seth, subsequent family members out in Australia, just to be able to promote to the rest of the world what's really going on over here. It's you guys have been great ambassadors. I think you've talked the country up, perhaps a little more than it deserves, but it's just been a hoot. I mean, we've been able to sort of live the American life a little vicariously through you guys, and you've been able to see it all firsthand how it really is in Australia. What are your impressions? Did it meet your expectations?
Oh, it exceeded my expectations, in that I got to body surf in the Indian Ocean and did not die. And I got to cuddle a quokka.
What'd you call me? A quokka.
Yeah.
And what's a quokka?
A quokka is apparently only indigenous to Western Australia in the area of Perth and some little island down there. It's kind of like a rat kangaroo. It's this itty-bitty thing, but they're you know how penguins, when people first get to Antarctica, they meet these penguins that just walk right up to them and have no fear of man? That's the quokkas. So you have this, imagine a kangaroo trying to be a rat, or a rat trying to be a kangaroo. They're about this big, they have no fear of people, and they come right up to you to be petted and fed.
So it's the crocoduck of marsupials. This is
essentially, yes.
Ray Comfort would be very happy.
Yeah, and we had an awesome time going to the Sydney Opera House, and crossing that big bridge, the Australia Zoo in Brisbane, and then the animal park in Perth. I forget what they call that place. It's a wildlife park, and both really excellent adventures. That barbecue that we had up at Skegg's house in Brisbane.
Well, just on that, Andrew Skegg was the other guy who organised the tour. Big shout out to him. He did a fantastic job. He did the vast majority of the heavy lifting in order to get the Unholy Trinity tour to happen down under, and we sold out Brisbane, or within like half a dozen places. Melbourne sold out. Sydney, we got 400 and something bums on seats. So there were a lot of Australians turned out to see you guys and hear what you had to say, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, and if you didn't sell out that place in Sydney, it's only because you rented a barn. That place was huge.
It was odd, because I think if we were to do this again, we'd probably start in the smaller venue, like say Adelaide or Brisbane, which were smaller venues.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until we began getting photos of you, Matt and Seth, in front of the Opera House, up on social media, that people, all of a sudden, it clicked for them. It was real. It was happening now. In fact, the biggest criticism we had of the tour was that there wasn't enough advertising. And the whole thing was done on a shoestring. We had a budget of 200 Australian dollars to promote this. And to have got the better part of 1,500 people attend for $200, we did a good job.
Yeah, it was outstanding, and I'm sorry to say that this is my last day in this country. It's a beautiful day. I hate to have to be spending it in an airport. Well, what are you going to do? My second time in Australia and my second time in Melbourne, I remember prompting my wife how much I loved Melbourne. Sydney was just eye candy. Brilliant. Brisbane, yeah, not so much.
We got all the touristy stuff done down in Sydney, and it was really, you guys were jet lagged, you were incoherent, circadian rhythms were back to front and upside down. It was a real shocker, but we ran them ragged. They didn't have an opportunity to scratch themselves. We kept you guys super busy.
And we spent an awful lot of time when we were here, just in the backyard, and just being comfortable and hanging out. That was sweet.
Does it look really comfortable from behind?
Somehow it feels like home. Moo. All right. Well, this is going to be my Patreon update, I guess, and This has just been a fabulous trip. It seems like a vacation, but we've actually been working because we did 4 speaking spots in Australia and another in New Zealand. And the same thing. I got email like yesterday to tell me, oh, you were in Auckland? I live in Auckland. I didn't even know you were going to be here. But I hear this all the time.
Yeah.
Every time I just left someplace, when we went to Melbourne, somebody says, hey, come to New South Wales. And I'm, well, sorry, I was just there.
But one interesting thing before we go, it is your last day in Australia, and we just had a negative experience buying a bag. And the reason I raise this is because with my real job, I deal with consumer law quite a bit, or consumer rights, people coming in, waving around banners and telling me what they can and can't do and what they are and are not entitled to. So for the first time in the history of my life, I found the shoe on the other foot, and I got to go into bat, as it were, and for you guys. So Aaron had purchased a bag, not of merchantable quality. So on the very first use, it broke. Hardly a challenge. You'd think you'd walk back into the store, and because it's only been used once, they'd swap it over. But these guys knuckled down in exactly the same way that I'd have to draw a parallel to, say, a theist. When presented with evidence, so I printed out everything off the website of what we are and are not entitled to, highlighted it, said here's what we have to do. It actually says, the wording on the documentation says, you cannot pass this off to the manufacturer, you must deal with it in store.
Yeah, specifically that Australian consumer law says, and he circled it, the retailer cannot refuse service by referring you back to the manufacturer, which is exactly what they were doing.
And when presented with the evidence in black and white,
the manager starts yelling at us.
Hey, shh.
So then the manager comes out and says, get out of my store.
And then when we didn't get out, he called his friends.
Yep,
who were
called
his friends.
security.
Security. Turns out security was the nicest guy. And I walked in, I thought, all right, I've got... And just smiled. Gave him the warm, friendly hello and said, look, I really hope you can help us with this problem. Because if you tell someone what to do, and the same thing with the thieves, you tell them what to believe, they're not going to go for that. Nobody would respond well to that. If you ask for somebody's help, all of a sudden they've got a vested interest in getting the best outcome for you. And we just didn't have that. It was almost like the street preachers. Present evidence, get ignored.
Yeah.
So there's our little summary.
Yeah. I also got to experiment with a number of dark beers that I can't buy in my country, and I have a list of things I will try to import. But everything I look up, it says, do not ship to the United States. What the hell? Does nobody like us anymore?
It's the high mercury content, perhaps. They're knock it back on those grounds.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to say hasta la vista, buy us nachos, a Wiener Schnitzel. I'm not sure.
If you'd like, and if I may,
yeah,
we've had 3 episodes 83, 84 and 85 at herdmentalitypodcast.com, where I've been running around with a little microphone, annoying the hell out of these guys, getting little snippets and behind the scenes insights from the tour around Australia. And it's all available at herdmentalitypodcast.com. Go nuts.
All right. Thank you, and good night.